All right, welcome to the Bases Loaded podcast. It's a two-man show today. Brandon was busy tonight, so he actually left us the reins tonight. So it's me and Blake tonight. So we're gonna talk about the wild card series and then talk about the divisional series. But Blake, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How about you, man? I honestly am kind of bummed that there wasn't any game threes. You know what I mean? But at the same time, you know, everybody that won those first two games, every single one of them took care of business. You know what I mean? I think the only thing that I was really kind of surprised about is the Twins coming out on fire against the Blue Jays, especially being on the receiving end. I think they really benefited obviously for being home, and not
Yeah.
being up in Toronto and everything like that. Um, I'm still kind of scratching my head on why they pulled their
Barris.
starter that
Yeah.
they literally are paying millions of dollars to. He only had like what 47
Well, and it
pitches.
was early in the fourth
Yeah,
inning, and yeah,
yeah.
it was
That
like
was the first time he had faced adversity the whole game, and they went and
yeah,
got him. And I was like, at first, like when I saw that they were going and getting him, Chris, I literally thought that he was hurt. I was like, is he
yeah.
hurt? Like because I was just I was blown away. But yeah, we kind of made fun of the Twins the last time we were on here. Kind of saying, are they ever gonna get this monkey off their back? And you know what? The crowd showed up. Number one, and number two, they had some pretty dominant performances, not only on the mound but in the batter's box as well too. And I know I was being a butthead last night in the chat, but hats off to Gray and Correa making
Yes.
that pick off, even though it was on poor Vladdy. You know, uh,
That was such a crucial play in that game. There was what
for
two? There
sure,
was runners in scoring position,
for
two outs
sure.
in the top of the fifth. Like you can't make that out at second, and it looked like he just fell asleep like there.
Yeah,
I know they had talked about it, and we were joking about it afterwards. That Correa had mentioned to keep an eye on for this, that this was happening, and that they might have a play there. So if that's what happened, heads up, great opportunity there to really shut down a rally. And then the following inning, Matt Chapman misses a double by about a foot or
a
two.
foot. Yep,
Next pitch, inning any double play. Like it's just that's the beauty and the pain of baseball, playoff baseball is like
for sure.
and it's that much. But Royce Lewis, game one, hitting those two home runs for the Twins and really setting it off in the first inning and getting that crowd into it. I think that was an absolutely important series for him. Like he
For
played
sure.
really well, and there's something to be said about these wild card teams. We saw it last year. I think three of the four wild card teams that won ended up going to the championship series. So,
Hmm.
I mean, there's something to be said about momentum, and Minnesota seems to be clicking at the right time right now. So, I'm going to be
For sure.
really, really keeping eyes on this series. I mean, obviously Correa coming back to Houston. I know you don't know who he is, but he used to play for you guys. So, yeah, it's going to be a really fun series.
Yeah, that Toronto Minnesota series did not go the way that I personally thought it was going to. I thought Toronto was the better team, better offense, but they didn't really show up in this series offensively. Props to the Twins with stellar pitching outings from Lopez and Sonny Gray. Shut down those bats. And as Chris was saying, Matt Chapman, literally 2 feet, bases loaded, one out. It's a line drive down the left field line, misses it. The next pitch, grounds into a double play. Like that's such a deflating feeling. Like you're so close to driving in those runs. Next pitch, ending double play. Congrats, Chris. You were the only one that picked the Twins. You picked that they would finally break the streak. Their first series win in the playoffs since 2004, which to me is absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun series. I was hoping just for, I guess you would say, just the benefit of having that extra game, with bullpen and with starting pitching, but I, as spoiled of a fan of the Astros as this sounds, I'm so battle tested and have been in so many like close games that at this point, like I'm not even nervous if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? And that's not I'm not looking past the Twins or anything
Yeah.
like that at all. But with this, I tell my son all the time. Miles is just now really, really starting to pay attention to baseball since he's playing it. He's
Yeah.
4. Macy, she just likes to go because she likes to get popcorn and ice cream. You know what I
I
mean?
mean, who doesn't? Who doesn't?
But Micah, my son's 9. He'll be 10 in March. But I tell him all the time, I'm like, buddy, dude, you live in the golden. You were born into the golden era of Astros baseball. I was like,
Yeah.
dude, we're 3 games or we're 4 games away from our 7th ALCS appearance. I go, buddy. Like I literally went back and counted. The Astros had only made the playoffs 7 times in my lifetime before 2015. And I was just like, that's why I tell you, like, it's so crucial. Like when we're watching the game, when we're getting to go to these playoff games, and we've been really blessed. I've been able to take my son to 2 World Series games. That's something that I will treasure forever. I'm a big sports guy. I played baseball my whole life. Played football. I'm huge into football too, but baseball is my first love, and to have your team be like this, I'm excited that Verlander's getting the nod, and Valdez will follow. I think that's always good, going righty lefty first, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm a huge proponent on that. And honestly, even though we kind of joke and make fun of Dusty and stuff like that, I've always been a big guy on going righty lefty as he does in the batting lineup as well too. Look, the Twins are going to be somebody to play. What I'm really hopeful for, and it's joking but yet being serious. I'm ready to get this home field monkey off of our back. You know what I mean? So I'm really really hoping that they go out there and take care of business with Verlander and Valdez. I could see the way that Javi has struggled. If they go with him number 3. Maybe that one's slipping away from us, but look, the Twins are hot, but I've said it all year long. We're finally healthy, and our 1 through 9 is just as scary as anybody else's 1 through 9, if not scarier than a lot of teams. I would put us up against any of the 1 through 9 on the AL side. The only comparables, obviously, are the Braves and the Dodgers on the NL side, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, the Braves and Dodgers, two of the best hitting teams all year. But yeah,
sure.
I mean, Houston definitely. It's going to be interesting. I know we've talked about their struggles at home all year. So, like you said, I think it's going to be an interesting challenge. But just like you said, the team is battle tested. They've been doing this year in and year out. They know what to expect this time of year, and there's something to be said about that experience that really can give you an advantage. But it's going to be the hot team against them. So we'll see what happens.
So Houston versus Minnesota. Carlos Correa playing his old boys in the Houston Astros. This series is either going to go 3 and Houston's going to completely dominate, or it's going 5 and Minnesota might squeak it out, or Houston may squeak it out there at the end. If Minnesota can grab one of the first 2 games with Verlander and Valdez pitching, I think they have a shot. But if they lose those first 2, Houston has all of the momentum, but Minnesota will be at home for at least game 3. So we'll just have to wait and see.
But looking at the other series in the AL, it looks like Texas just absolutely went in there and just dominated what was a spring training crowd in Tampa Bay for 2 games and just cruised. Like, that series was over early. It was crazy to see.
Well, it's crazy to see a 99-win team like Tampa Bay come out there so flat-footed. The first game I kind of felt like was almost like watching a Little League game slip away from you. There were so many critical errors.
Yeah.
I was like really, really, really working really hard that day. So it took me a while to catch up with you guys, and I really hadn't seen anything.
Uh-oh. I think I lost Blake.
But can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
But
Yeah.
but dude, Siri, man, we traded him obviously to Tampa, but dude, Siri, I have never seen such bad defense on multiple plays. The ball that got away from him, and the throw that he made was just it was as and look, I get that these guys are professional athletes, but it looked juvenile out there, if it makes
Yeah.
sense. And what's crazy about that is, dude, this guy started games for the Astros in the playoffs, so it's not like he doesn't have playoff experience. But yeah, I think Texas, and this is me talking. This is Big Brother talking to Little Brother. I think they finally. I think that I think honestly, even though their media and their front office and their GM won't admit that they partied too early and didn't take care of business and let the division slip through their hands, I think that they kind of got together the players and look, those are grown men that have huge egos, and they got together and that hurt. You know what I mean? They literally, look, I saw a graph. They were in the lead 159 days this season. The Astros only had, I think, like 24 days in first place, and it literally came down to the last game, and we pulled the rug out from under them. I think that was a statement for them. I don't think we're going to get away with that with Baltimore, but this is October. We say it all the time. Everybody says it's like one of the greatest punchlines ever. I love October baseball. If you're even a casual fan, October baseball is when to turn on and watch. I think Baltimore, Texas is going to be more entertaining than a lot of people think. In fact, I think look, the NL is loaded, but I really think that this Baltimore Texas series could be more entertaining as the Phillies Brave series is going to be honest.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited to see what happens. I mean, like you said, I know Texas kind of choked away the division, so there's something to be said with a manager like Bruce Bochy being in charge of that team, having that happen before the playoffs and being like, okay, guys, get that out of your system. It's time to go. And I mean, Jordan Montgomery, dominant performance in game one. He went 7 scoreless and looked really great against that Tampa Bay offense. And then Eovaldi was solid game 2 as well. So it was a really dominant pitching performance for them. Siri made a lot of errors for the Rays, but so did Yandy Diaz at first. Like there was too early in the game that really, really put him out. But
what's crazy to me is, and you guys know, I'm a huge Tyler Glasnow fan.
Yeah.
Dude, he came out and he was wild. And the bad thing about it is, man, dude, he got his command back at the end of that third inning, but the damage was already done, if that makes sense,
Oh, no, yeah.
And after that damage was done, it's hard to get back into the groove of things, but it was just so strange. And I know records don't mean anything when you get into October, but it was so strange to see that dominant of a team, that one went away from being a 100-win team this season. Just go out there, and we're not even talking about the road, And I know we can make jokes about the attendance and what everybody's saying and everything like that about the Rays. Look, the Rays are going to be the Rays, okay?
Yeah.
It is what it is. And I don't even think what they've talked about, building another stadium and getting it closer to Tampa is going to help, It's honestly, that's embarrassing. And to be quite frank with you, I could see some shakeups happening in there. I don't know if that means on the roster, front office, or the coaching staff, but that right there, something's got to change because, to be in that critical of a division, regardless of what your attendance is, they're always there. And it seems like when you really think about it, Chris, for the past 10 years, that team's always been there. The team's always either been on the hills of the Yankees or it's always been on the hills of these great Red Sox teams, and they don't even have like a market that's completely and 100% sold out on this team. And I think that's what's special about a lot of what happens behind the scenes there is they have great baseball minds and they have great front office there. So I think you'll see a lot of change, but I'll give credit where credit's due always. And the Rangers came out and they took care of business. And I
Yeah.
think game one sticks out to me a lot because, of all the errors and stuff like that. But game two was just a complete dominant, like, slam the door shut basically from start to finish. So it's going to be really, really entertaining to see what the Orioles do against them.
So the Texas Rangers versus the Tampa Bay Rays. I had Tampa. Blake had Tampa, but Chris was the only one that took Texas. Chris is the one that got it right. But as the fellas were saying, game one, defensively, Tampa Bay was a mess. And what's crazy is one of the errors by Yandy Diaz, he has almost the exact same play in game two, but the hit in game one's hit a little bit slower. Like, it was crazy to me. But the most boneheaded play I've ever in this series was that single to center that Siri just airmails into the third base dugout. Like, that was a terrible, awful throw. But congrats to Texas. They didn't let their inability to not win the division kind of have a hangover effect on them. They were able to kind of compose themselves and take these two games dominantly, by the way. Was not even close. Texas dominated both games single-handedly. Tampa, you got a run, so congratulations there. You broke your streak of like three consecutive playoff games without scoring a run. Like, I thought that streak was gonna continue, but they got a single there late in game two. But Texas, you looked really, really good.
Yeah, and shout out to one player on the Rangers, Evan Carter, who just had an amazing start to his playoff career. And they were talking about him having like 76 at-bats in the majors, and 39 of them he pushed to full counts. Like, the kid has so much patience at the plate. I think he drew 2 full counts in game one as well, but he's like 4 for 5 to start the playoffs, like hitting well. He's got a great glove out in the outfield, and Bochy trusts his young kid, which is great to see. So yeah, I'm really excited to see Baltimore. Honestly, super excited for that playoff atmosphere there, because they have been waiting for this for a long time, and this team is special. So I think it's going to be a very, very fun series between those two.
For sure. And too, like, you look at it too in the West. Now, I'm going to bring up something, and I know you're not going to remember it, but this is what good key management can do for a clubhouse. Because 2 years ago, when everybody jumped on the Seattle bandwagon, I even said on this podcast, and both you and Brandon laughed at me. I told you guys that I was more worried about the Texas Rangers than I was the Seattle Mariners. And how bad they were last season, I ate crow. And I admit that, you know what I mean? But then they went out and got a guy that is, let's face it, man, we saw what he did in San Francisco. Those San Francisco teams will always stick out in my mind of how just dominant they were. But it wasn't how dominant they were physically. It was how mentally sharp that they were. And that is something that you have to breathe life into players. You have to like tap into their psyche. And it's almost like he's a horse whisperer when it comes to stuff like that. And I mean, he has honestly probably accelerated that clubhouse 2 to 3 years faster than what that whole organization could have been under a different management and a leadership there. Because, I mean, let's face it, Seager, I know Seager got hurt last year, but dude, Marcus Semien was MIA all last season.
Yeah, he was.
And this year he has turned back into a cold-blooded killer, man, and I think that's something that people need to take notice of, because let's face it, yes, the Rangers tried really, really hard to see what they can do to get DeGrom, and they took a huge chance to go out and get Max. We all know what happens to Max. Max has been dominant, but his body has just failed him the past couple of years.
So I don't know if you saw, but he's been throwing,
I know.
and there's
I know.
expectations he's going
I
to come
know.
back in the ALCS, so that's going to be a storyline to watch.
For sure.
But with Boch, like especially with those Giants, like like I hate those Giants teams, but they were scrappy teams who probably weren't as good as them winning the World Series shows,
For
but
sure.
like he always got those guys up for it. But also with the Rangers, credit to Chris Young, like up in the front
Mhm.
office, like former Padre pitcher, he has done a wonderful job shaping that roster. And yeah, obviously there's been some injuries with it when it comes to starting pitching that he's brought in, that he's gambled on. But you look at everything he's done the last couple of years, and he's really laid the foundation for what this Rangers team is doing this
For
year.
sure. And you know what? Right mix right now. They have the right young talent of rookies, and they have the right veteran leadership that they've brought. The only thing that I'm worried about is I feel like the only thing that could be their Achilles heel is that they've overspent. Okay. And what I mean by overspent is, let's face it, their bullpen is atrocious. Okay. And it's going to be really hard
Yeah.
to pick up those pieces in the offseason when you got $500 million basically wrapped up between three guys, if that makes sense, you know.
I know something about overspending.
but at the same time, you know, I know I've said it a couple of times and stuff like that. You know, I was born in Houston. My dad's job took us up outside of Dallas until I was about in junior high, and then we moved back down here. So even though we were like Houston through and through, dude, my dad used to get tickets. We used to go to the Rangers games all the time. And back then, I mean, it wasn't frowned upon because we were AL, they were NL, you know. But those were the years that, you know, anytime the Mariners came to town, my dad would always try to get us tickets because me and my brother were huge Griffey fanatics.
Yeah.
We loved Boone. You know, that was back when they were killing it back in 2099. And even the 98 guys, you know, A-Rod was still on there as a young gun. You had Randy Johnson and all them. But that's always been the Rangers' MO, is to overspend just to get the big name, just to get the people from Dallas to come because you had the big name, you had the flashiness on the billboards and stuff like that. And it's almost like the front office has never truly learned like what it takes to actually build from the ground up. I know they've had success in the past making the World Series, even though they didn't win it and stuff like that. But this seems pretty different this time around. But at the same time, they used half of the same formula that they've done in the past.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing that's going to be interesting is their pitching. Like you said, it struggled, but I mean, I remember a team last year that kind of limped into the playoffs, won a great wild card series, and then went and beat a division rival they struggled against all year. So I've seen it happen. So, you know, like down the road, that can happen in the ALCS. Maybe we don't know, but yeah, there's some really good series, and I can't wait to see how it folds out in the AL. But let's just jump over to the NL really quickly. I feel like I can hear Brandon screaming at me about talking about his beloved Diamondbacks, but they went to Milwaukee and they got it done.
Yeah, they did. And you know what's cool is, of course, you know, the hero, you know, pretty much did it in both games. You know, he played a vital role with Corbin Carroll. Pitching was kind of strange on both sides because I felt like it for the Diamondbacks to wake up both games, if that makes sense. But dude, Milwaukee was on fire the first 3 innings each game, if that makes sense. On both sides of the ball. So credit to the Diamondbacks, you know, they got it done. But at the end of the day, you know, that right there is giving a lot of that core there in Arizona the exposure that is needed in playoff baseball. And
100%.
it's a young core.
Like,
it's a young core.
Yeah.
So
you look at game one and Carroll hitting that 2-run homer, and then Marte coming right back with the back-to-back homers, like really got to Corbin Burnes there and kind of forced him out early. Christian Walker with that clutch RB or 2 RBI double to seal it in the 9th. Like a lot of these names, and Gurriel was great in game 2. So it's like all of these names that have been staples with the Diamondbacks and people that Brandon has praised them all year, like they're coming through in the clutch. So Gallen was really interesting game 2 because he gave up the 2 runs in the first inning, and I was like, hey, we might get a game 3, but he really settled in after that and just kind of cruised. So it was really cool to see that because he got through 6, and the bats did enough. Like this team is going to be really interesting, especially going into a series with the Dodgers, because I mean, the Dodgers, yes, they have all the offensive firepower in the world, but the playoffs are not really about offense. They're about pitching. And it's, there's been some issues with their starting rotation. So I think Arizona has a fighting chance in the series.
Y'all, that freaking series, I was on the edge of my seat for both games. I got really worried, as Chris said. Milwaukee looked really good in the first 3 innings. There's a reason you have 9 innings and 27 outs. This bullpen, I don't even know where it came from. Because if you would have asked me in June or July that you'd make the playoffs and you'd win a playoff series because of your bullpen, I would have said, what are you smoking? Can I have some? But bullpen really has been the strongest part of our team the last 2 months. And it all changed when they got Paul Sewald, and he was solidified as the team's closer, and everyone else kind of fell into place. Each guy knows he's the 7th guy. He's the 8th inning guy. Like right now, that is Ryan Thompson and Kevin Ginkel. This bullpen shut down the Brewers' bats in Game 1. I think Gallen struggled in Game 2 at the start just because of nerves. It was his first career playoff start. He got a little too hyped up, a lot of nerves there. He didn't give up another run after the first. He had 34 pitches in the first. And also, Corbin Carroll, your National League Rookie of the Year. Now everyone can see just how good he is. And also one of the most underrated players, Christian Walker. Everyone sees how good he is. Also, Evan Longoria in Game 1. Did he remember it was 2009 again and that he's good? That 1 inning where he gets that double play, they don't win that game without that play. So for me, Evan Longoria saved Game 1. This series, Dodgers, I don't know. I don't know how this is going to go.
Yeah, if if the Dodgers had their big 3 intact,
Yeah.
kind of the starting pitching, I would lean heavy on there, but anything can happen. The only thing is, when you're going against a heavyweight, it's almost like they can either punch themselves out or they can punch you out. And the advantage is definitely the 1 through 9 there in LA over Arizona. But, I'm never going to underestimate the fight of the underdog. And let's face it, they have seen each other a lot this season. So the scouting reports are going to be just overloaded with information across the board. So it's honestly going to be what you have on that given day, if that makes sense. The best that you throw out there onto the field is going to decide those games right there. It's going to be interesting. I really, really think besides our series, you're going to see a lot of these series go 5 games.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think yours might go 5 games too. I think just watching what we saw last year, these teams that win the wild card series, they're playing probably above their level because they've got that confidence, and there's something to be said about these teams sitting. We've seen it happen almost year in and year out with the Dodgers, where they struggle in these playoff series, but. I mean, I'm hoping Arizona does it. I know Brandon will lose his absolute mind. I think he said he's going to Game 3, right? He had talked about that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So let's hope it's not 2-0 Dodgers and he actually has a chance to watch something really fun. Because I mean, you split in LA, anything happens.
Yeah, I'm glad he's going to Game 3. Because I mean, if it is 2-0, he'll get to see them celebrate in their pool again. And I know he was really mad the last time that happened.
Blake, how dare you? How dare you? They won't be able to do it again because Diamondbacks are winning in 3. And also, they're going to put horses with cops in front of the pool if the Dodgers clinch at Chase Field. So
He might charge in the pool after them. So,
Oh,
so we might have
the front office won't allow that. They'll have security out there this time around because that was bad. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm really interested to see. Um, you know, Brandon's even said it in the chat, and I followed him really, really close because I had him in fantasy this season. But Gallon, man, he's been hot and then he's been cold, but it's not been hot, cold. It's like hot, cold, cold, hot, hot, cold, cold, cold. If that makes sense. So,
yeah.
I hope Strami, dude, I miss that guy more than anything in the world, and he's done wonders already there in Arizona. But it's hard because, like we said, if you start splitting hairs, the Dodgers don't have that great of a bullpen as they have had in the past.
Yes.
I'm not saying that it's as bad as Arizona's, but
it's probably a lot closer than it has been in previous
For
years,
sure,
or
for
even
sure.
earlier in the year because of injuries and stuff. Yeah.
LA has consistently kept the 1 through 9 strong, if not stronger than they've had in the past. But their bullpen and their starting rotation is nothing compared to the teams 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be another divisional battle, which will be interesting. The Dodgers don't seem to enjoy those. I mean they obviously got past the Giants in 2021, and they struggled against the Padres in 2022, and then 2020 they beat them. So I mean we'll see what happens another year where they have to face somebody in the NL West. And
right,
we joked about it with Brandon, but it still blows my mind that we're talking about a team in the NL West that's in the division series facing the Dodgers. And if it wasn't the Padres, I thought it would be the Giants. And obviously it's not. It's Arizona. Arizona has had an absolutely fantastic year. So personally, I'm going to hope they keep it going because there's nothing I enjoy more than watching the Dodgers lose. But
yeah, pitching is going to be the thing. So Merrill Kelly's going in game 1, and I think they're going to go Brandon Pfaadt in game 2 because there's a break, I believe. Game 1 is Saturday. They don't play. Yeah, they don't play Sunday. Game 2 is on Monday, and then game 3 is on Wednesday. Wednesday would be Gallon's normal rest. I'm wondering if they might have him go game 2 because game 3 is on Wednesday. Game 4 would then be Thursday, and then if necessary, game 5 is Saturday. So you could go Merrill game 1, Gallon game 2, Pfaadt game 3, Kelly game 4, Gallon game 5. If they can get 4 starts out of Merrill and Zach Gallen, I think they win. Because I think they're going to win 3 of those starts. I think Gallen or Kelly's probably going to have a not so good start in one of them. Like we kind of saw Gallen start that way, but he settled in. But y'all know I'm picking the D-backs on this. I think they have a shot, mainly because other than Kershaw, the Dodgers pitching doesn't really scare me. What, Bobby Miller and Lance Lynn? No. I'm really not worried too much about that. The only thing that worries me is what the Arizona Diamondbacks offense is going to be. We saw what happened in the 3-game series against Houston where they literally didn't show up. And we thought we were going to see that against the Brewers the way that it started. But they came together and they got hot in a couple of innings. So they're able to take that. I'm really hoping that they beat the Dodgers.
Yeah, the last wild card series, we're gonna have another divisional matchup there in the NLCS because the Phillies just dominated. I mean, there's nothing else to really say about that series. Wheeler and Nola just shut down the Marlins. They just couldn't get their offense going and just kind of struggled throughout. So,
which is crazy because when you really look at it, the Marlins won that series during the season. Marlins just came out flat-footed. This was a team that didn't rise to the occasion. team that really hasn't been there, done that yet. And let's face it, dude, Philly is another beast. Not a lot of teams can go in there and win in October. Only the greats can go in there and pitch a combined no hitter. But at the end of it, it is what it is. And I know we haven't done it yet, and I know that we've talked, but this right here, this series, I know Atlanta's great, and I give them credit. I really, really do. But this series is going to be my upset series in the NLDS, and I have the Phillies beating the Braves, and I'm going to say it's going to go all 5 games.
Is it an upset if it's the same thing that happened last year?
Well, I think so, just because the Braves are tougher than they were, and it would be it would be comparable as the Rays, to win all those games and to be that dominant, and also to be that dominant with the pitching shambles that you've had too. On top of that, to still go out there and just have that, and to have the year that Acuna's had, to have a first round exit, that's still tough to swallow, no matter what type of clubhouse you are.
Well, it's very funny because last year the Braves ended the regular season 14 games above the Phillies, and this year they ended the season 14 games above the Phillies, and that's who they're going to be facing in the divisional series. And I mean, it goes without saying in these divisional series matchup, but the key for the road team is to split. Because if you can split those first 2 games and go home with an opportunity to not have to go back on the road, like, those fans will show up. Like, every team we have left, I expect nothing but electric atmospheres for the playoff games. So it's gonna be a lot of fun to watch for sure.
For sure.
All right. So I know Brandon didn't want to send me his picks. I think he was afraid I was going to mess with his Diamondbacks one or something. So he'll probably post this at some point. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's time to talk about the next series. The interesting thing as I was looking into these next series is there's really only 3 starting pitchers named in any of these series right now, and that's Kershaw in game 1 for the Dodgers, and then you've got Verlander and Valdez going. Other than that, everything is TBD right now, and I know we're a couple days out, so it'll be interesting to see how these teams put their rotations together. But yeah, let's start with the ALDS and the Rangers and the Orioles. What do you got?
I got Orioles in 4.
Orioles in 4. Okay, I love Baltimore. I want it to happen. I think I'm seeing something in this Texas team, especially like I know we gave them a lot of crap for blowing the division like late and struggling, but it seems like they're in one of those grooves where they could potentially go on a run. So I think this one goes 4 now, but I think it's going to be Texas. I think they're going to split in Baltimore, and they're not going to go back. So
all right, Baltimore, Texas. So Baltimore is a lot like Arizona. Like, there's a lot of young pieces there, not a lot of playoff experience. I don't think everyone thought they would be this good this quickly. I mean, Adley did come up last year, and we saw what he did to that team, and they brought on a bunch of other young guys this season. But yeah, I want to see them go on a roll. I want to see Baltimore go on a roll. I'm going to go Baltimore in 4.
We'll see what happens. I'm excited to see that. And then, yeah, I would ask you Twins Astros, but I think I know who you're going to pick. So Astros in 3.
In 3.
See, I know you're not going to want to hear this, but I think Correa is going to come in with a massive chip on his shoulder, and I think he's going to have himself a hell of a series. And you might actually remember his name by the end of the series because it's so impressive. But I definitely think it's going to be Astros, but I think it's going to go 5. Like,
I'm gonna tell you this, and I want you to write it down so you know it. Okay. Correa's kryptonite is Jeremy Pena's same kryptonite. And this bullpen and starting rotation knows it. When Correa gets 2 strikes on him, they are going to throw the slider down and away, and he's going to strike out multiple times this series with that. And it's because you know him, and it's because we know him, obviously. So I'm telling you that right now. Look, I'm happy for him. I'm happy that he took his ex that he left the girl from and then went on to another girl and then went back to her, because she ices his ankle better than anybody else. But it was magical, and congratulations on moving on from wild card team, but you're not going back to Houston and taking it from us. Sorry.
No, we'll see what happens. And I mean, I wouldn't doubt the Astros sweeping. Like, once again, they are one of those teams that's just there every year and find a way to the ALCS. So there's no reason they won't find another way there. But when it comes to Phillies Braves, what do you got? I know you said you had Phillies, but what?
Look, I'm going Phillies, and I'm even going against my own pick. You remember I picked Astros Braves at the beginning of the year. It wouldn't surprise me to go either way, but I'm buying the hype of Red October. I got a lot of Bryce Harper in me, as crazy as that sounds. I love the cockiness of him. I love the fire in him. I love how pissed off he gets. It still hurts me to know that we could have had him in 2019, but the owner nixed the deal because honestly, he has the attitude Astros needed to go along with Correa and Bregman back in that time frame. But this team right here, they're kind of rallying around what they did last season. And I think mentally that's going to be really tough to beat because these guys have a lot of veteran leadership now that's been there, done that with Schwarber, with Turner, with your two studs with Wheeler, and Nola. These guys too, they're not as banged up as they were last season. So I would be scared to face them or any team ready to face them, especially them being red hot and going out there and just completely obliterating a team that kind of took them. But at the same time too, the Braves are a hard team. I think this is the matchup, and I've seen a lot of Braves mad.
I know, Brandon. I think you're Blake.
And not, huh?
I think I lost you for a second. Sorry.
Okay, I've seen a lot of Braves fans mad about the way the seating is. Even though you can't really do anything about it, thinking that the Diamondbacks are an easier team than the Phillies, obviously, to face right now. But it's going to be interesting, man. I like when it's all said and done. This is going to be one of the most entertaining series of all of playoff. This could easily be the NLCS. Not disrespecting the Dodgers or the Diamondbacks, but this is going to be the matchup that you're going to want to watch if your respective team isn't in the playoffs.
Yeah, and so for me, my World Series pick is in this matchup, and that is the Atlanta Braves. I do not think they let what happened last year happen again. These guys are motivated. They remember what happened last year, and I think the Braves are going to go into Philly. They're going to win both games, and they're going to win this series in 4. Like, I just think there's too much motivation. I know they have the scrimmages to kind of keep themselves up when trying to change things up from last year, but they have a chip on their shoulder. And yes, Philly is incredible. That team just finds ways to win in October. They've got so much power in the lineup. They can change games like in an instant, but I just think Atlanta has enough when it comes to the pitching. They're a complete team. They've done a really good job in that organization building this roster to make a World Series run. And I think they are going to go out there and they're going to prove why they were the best team in National League all year.
This is going to be the most intense 5-game series we've seen between these two. Like these teams hate each other. I know plenty of Braves fans that hate Bryce Harper because he's so good and his little cocky attitude that he has. Offensively, I think they're about the same. The only issue with Atlanta is they're very home run dependent. If they're struggling with the home run ball, there is a chance that they could lose. I think Philly has better pitching. Wheeler and Nola are just nasty. That's why I didn't want the Diamondbacks to get the 2 seed, because I think we would have saw exactly what happened to the Marlins. Complete domination. Also, that offense scares me. Even without Reese, that top five's pretty nasty. Like it is. You got Schwarber, Turner, Harper, Real Muto. Like it is nasty. But I think Ronald Acuna Jr. is going to show why he is deserving of the MVP. I think he's going to be running like crazy on the bases. And I think Atlanta squeaks it out only because I want the Diamondbacks to play the Braves because we played better against them this year. But also, I have a friend that is a Braves fan and she'd be mad if I didn't pick the Braves. So
For sure. And you know what? Coming into this, I think I just wanted to pick somebody to be off the norm because I knew that we would all probably go all Braves, and I'm just going off of hype. But I think the Achilles heel with the Phillies is the Braves hold the advantage with starting rotation and bullpen. But at the
Yeah.
same time, we all know, and I know, for instance, with having Verlander and Cole on the same team and not being able to get it done, that in October anything can happen. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be cool to see these division foes actually go against one another that has battled. It's been the Braves handedly, the past couple of years, but I think this is going to be really, really exciting because we all know, when Atlanta's good, when Boston's good, when St. Louis is good, and when the Yankees are good, it's good for baseball. And right now, the Atlanta Braves, I think, are that team that are building that dynasty that we're going to have for the next 5 to 6 years there in Atlanta.
Oh yeah, they scare the crap out of me, and I know they're going to be a team that in future years, if the Padres are going to make a deep run, they're going to have to beat, like they're going to have to go through them. So it's going to be interesting. But last matchup is Dodgers D-backs. Like, what do you got here?
I am going to wear the flag, and I'm going to wear the flag for our guy Brandon. Brandon is more than anybody, and we're going to win it for Brandon. I'm going with the underdog. I'm going with the underdog mentality, and the reason why I'm going to go through it, as cheesy as it sounds, I'm going to say the reason why the Diamondbacks win this is because the Dodgers are going to look past them. And I think the Dodgers are going to come out flat-footed, and they're going to get punched in the jaw. They're going to lose game one, and they're not going to know what to do. I think that this game, though, or this series will go all 5 rounds or all 5 games, and it's going to give Brandon a heart attack, and he's going to know what it feels like, to finally have your hat in the race and have those feelings and wonder why your feet are ice cold while you're watching baseball games because you're so stinking nervous. But I felt like instead of just going with the obvious picks this year, I'm going to go with 2 upsets, and I'm going to pick both the underdogs on the NL side.
I like that. I mean, and Brandon's gonna love that. And honestly, one thing I can't wait for is his in-game texts because
Yeah.
they are going to be unhinged throughout, regardless of what happens. And I would love to ride with the D-backs. Like if they win, I would be happy to be wrong. But
Right.
I just like the situation in Atlanta, and I think we're going like the opposite in the mindset of it. But
For sure.
I think the same thing with the Dodgers. Like I think they know what happened last year. They know last year was a failure for them, and I think they're motivated. And that team, as much as I dislike them, when they are motivated, their roster can go out there and just play fantastic baseball. And I think that's what they do. Like I do think they split games in Arizona, so I'm just hoping Brandon gets a chance to see a win. But I think the Dodgers wins that series in 4. Like I don't think they do it again this year. And if they do, like it's gonna be quite comical because there's no way they can keep Dave Roberts, and there's gonna
That's
have to be
exactly
a ton
what
of
I was about
changes
to
in
say.
LA. So
Yeah, I
that's
was
where I'm
about to
just
say.
like, I'm good either way, honestly.
I think that the out managing can happen, especially with how critical the bullpen is right now. But I will say the Diamondbacks are going to have to jump on them early. You can't let the Diamondbacks get the leads, or not the Diamondbacks, but the Dodgers get the leads that Milwaukee gets, because let's face
Yeah.
it, that when they put their foot down, they put their foot down, and we've seen it time and time again. But it's going to be interesting, man. I could see so many different scenarios in the NL. and maybe I have my blinders on because I pay so much attention to the AL, so I kind of know
Yeah.
what's already there. But I could see anything. I could see any scenario happening right now in the NL. Like, honestly, as shocking as it sounds, it wouldn't surprise me if the Dodgers lost. Just like it wouldn't surprise me if the Phillies took it from the Braves. It's going to be interesting, you know. I will say it wouldn't surprise me if the Rangers pulled and pinned their ears back and actually got it done. I honestly would openly welcome it, to be honest with you, if we could get past the Twins. I think it'd be really, really fun to actually take it back to them, and ride it out in the ALCS. It's going to be really, really fun. I'm really excited with the teams and the names that are in the playoffs right now. It's going to be, I think it's going to be a star-studded World Series, just like it was last year, and I'm all for it, just for baseball, basically.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the one great thing about this division series is there is the mix of the teams you see every year. You know, the Braves, the Astros, the Dodgers, the Phillies, like these teams. But you've also got these new teams: the Rangers, the Twins, the Orioles, the Diamondbacks. Like, you know, there's just a lot of great stories to watch, and you know, a lot of those cities have just been waiting for playoff baseball. 'Cause some of them, it's been a while, so
sure.
it's going to be just really fun to see these environments. Like, I cannot wait to watch all of these games, and just you know, I also cannot wait for Brandon's texts because I know they're going to be
Yeah.
so good. So
Right.
but yeah, man, you got any final thoughts?
Astros in 3.
Astros in 3. All right. Well, you know, honestly, I'm going to be cheering for both of you guys. Like, we thought at the beginning of the year there might be a podcast World Series, and now all I want is Astros, Diamondbacks. Like, you know, I think it would be very, very entertaining, and I would love to see the conversation between you and Brandon for that.
Right.
But yeah, dude, so much fun tonight. You know, you can see me and Blake's socials down there below. Brandon's gonna check in with us. I don't know if he's gonna put this before or after, whatever, but hopefully we're all together next week. We can do this, and we're watching the Diamondbacks and the Astros in the championship series. But for Bases Loaded, see you guys later.